to trial. Take it to trial. Welcome in, grab a seat, hit the like and subscribe. The Sweet Peas on the mic with that spicy little vibe. Got the courtroom streaming in the chat, going wild. We're debating heavy topics, but still laughing like a child. From objections to confessions to the judge's side eye. If it's justice and it's messy, we gon' talk about why. Every day's a new case, every moment's a ride. And when Sweet Peas in the building, we be learning with pride. Minds on deck, keep the room running smooth. Film freak therapist, you know, keeping everyone in the groove. Like to with the facts, pretty brown girl with the sass. Marilia and Fowler keep the peace in the chat. But Jason walks in and the ladies collapse. Chocolate, take it to trial, where the truth gets loud and the laughs run wild. Sweet Pea's got the spice, she's the queen of the aisle. Chat fam rolling deep, we've been here a while. Lights on, mics up, we gon' do this right. Take it to trial, every day, every night. Take it to trial. Morning shows are sharp, afternoon is on fire. And we catch every moment that the court might inspire. From witnesses whispering, the lawyers trying to hard. You know Sweet Pea breaks it down like a legal tarot card. Chats cracking jokes, dropping theories on the fly. We're serious when it counts, but we still testify. Minds hold it down when the trolls try to play. If you're out of line, court adjourned for the day. But when Jason logs in with that deep hello sound, the ladies in the chat, man, they all fall down. Take it, 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 take it to trial, where the truth gets loud and the laughs run wild. Sweet Pea's got the fight, she's the queen of the aisle. Chat fam rolling deep, we've been here a while. Lights on, mics up, we gon' do this right. Take it to trial, every day, every night. Take it to trial. When the sun goes down and the cases get deep, after dark gets spicy, no secrets to keep. Taboo topics, big laugh, slap, happy crew. Sweet Pea says behave, but we never really do. It's opinions, confessions, stories untold, but we handle it with heart like the chat made a goal. Hey! Take it to trial, from day to night and every wild mile. Sweet Pea's nearly strong with her trademark style, and the fam in the chat always makes it worthwhile. Turn it up, show some love, hit the like on sight. Take it to trial, yeah, we live tonight. Take it to trial, yeah, we live tonight. Take it to trial.
Thank you. And Your Honor, I just wanted to make a very brief opening statement. Your Honor, I have filed a sentencing memorandum in this case that I hope was very thorough. I do intend to rely heavily on that. So I would ask the court to take into consideration my filings. We are asking the court to apply the mitigating factors number 2, 3, 8, 11, and 13. And we are asking for concurrent sentencing. We will be calling Ms. Daniels to the stand as well as 2 additional witnesses. I don't anticipate them being long witnesses, but it will be her sister and her son. And Your Honor, we are asking the court for a minimum sentence.
Does it say anything?
No, ma'am.
Or you can call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I may call Andrika Brock.
Come on with me, man. Come to us. You stand here, face the judge. Raise your right hand.
Do you swear firm to tell the whole truth?
I do.
You may have a seat, ma'am.
Can you please state and spell your name?
My name is Andrika Brock. That's K-A, last name Brock, B-R-O-C-K.
Ms. Brock, do you know LaToshia Daniels?
I do.
How do you know her?
By blood, she is my cousin. In life, she's my sister.
Have you prepared something that you wanted to read to the court today for the court's consideration on LaToshia's sentencing?
I have.
Would you please read that?
First of all, Your Honor, thank you for allowing me to speak today. I first want to acknowledge the seriousness of this case and the loss that has occurred. Nothing that I say today is meant to minimize that. With a heavy heart, I'm here to ask for grace and mercy because I know my sister beyond this moment. I know her heart. I know her character. She is not defined by the worst moment of her life. She is a mother to 2 boys who love her deeply and need her. She has always been a present, nurturing, and devoted mother. I have watched her love them, fight for them, pray over them, and show up for them every single day. LaToshia has spent years helping others, counseling men, women, and children who were struggling in life. I watched her start and build a nonprofit to support other people and continued this mission even while facing her own struggles. She has always been the person that people leaned on and poured into these people consistently. But during one of the darkest times of her own life, she was struggling in many ways that we didn't fully see. And as her big sister, I carry that heavily because I feel like I failed her in some way. This does not excuse what happened. But I want you to know that this was not the act of a cold, heartless person. This was a broken person in pain who made a devastating decision. I know that she is remorseful. I've watched her up until trial continue to pour into this nonprofit, helping others, continuing to pour into others, all the while struggling herself. She is a woman who needs accountability, yes, but also compassion and the opportunity for redemption. Your Honor, I respectfully ask that you consider her full life, her service, her motherhood, her mental struggles, and the impact her absence will have on her boys. We're not asking you to ignore what happened. We're asking you for mercy within justice. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, no.
All right, let's get damn name.
You're under, next we would call DeAndre Davis.
Come forward, sir. Stand here. Face the judge. Raise your right hand.
You swear affirm to tell the whole truth?
I do.
Right, you have a seat, sir. You have a seat.
Thank you. Would you please state and spell your name?
DeAndre Davis, DeAndre Davis, DeUndre, last name Davis.
Mr. Davis, do you know LaToshia Daniels?
I do.
How do you know her?
That's my mother.
Have you prepared some words for the court today that you
I
want
have.
her to know about your mom?
I have. I'm Gen Z, so they're on my phone if you don't mind. Mom, I don't ever think I've said this out loud, but you deserve to know watching you become a mother at a young age, it was so much being demanded from you than it should have been. As a young single mom, raising 2 boys, you carry responsibilities that most people don't fully understand. You didn't raise us, you protected us, guided us, and loved us with the strength that we could ever ask for. But things were hard, especially when things were hard. Later, when life changed, you became a wife while raising 3 boys. You had my little brother, and you kept going. You gave, and you gave. Even when you didn't feel appreciated, even when efforts seemed unseen, you made sure we always had what we needed, and somehow even the things we wanted, no matter what it cost you. You turned sacrifice into love, and that we didn't realize how much you was carrying. What hurts my heart the most, but fills it with so much admiration, is at the same time, it's knowing how much you were hurting emotionally while still choosing to be strong for everyone else. You showed up every single day with a smile, encouragement, with love, never letting us see your pain. You put yourself last so we could feel safe, supported, and whole. You was always there for everyone, family, friends, anyone who needed you, while quietly feeling like no one was around for you. Even then, you didn't harden, you didn't stop loving, you didn't stop giving. You continued to put us and others before yourself, and again, because that's who you are. Your love shaped the people we became. Your strength taught us resilience, your sacrifice taught us empathy, and your heart taught us what's real and what unconditional love looks like. I see you now. I see everything you did. I see everything you endured. And I want you to know you were never invisible. And you were never alone. You're always appreciated. And you're the best mother I could ever ask for. Thank you for being our foundation, our safe place, and our example of selfless love. I'm proud to be your child. I'm proud to call you my mother. This storm doesn't last forever. God has never failed us, and He won't fail now. Stay kingdom focused and love up, because even through it all, we got. I love you, Mama.
Thank you, Your Honor.
No, ma'am.
You can step down, sir. May I call your name, please?
Your Honor, I've called LaToshia Daniels to the stand.
Come on. Stand here. Face me. Raise your right hand.
You swear affirm to tell the whole truth? Yes. Right hand, speak hand, so.
Would you please state and spell your name?
LaToshia Daniels, LaToshia Daniels, Daniels.
Ms. Daniels, you understand why we're here today.
Yes,
We're asking the court to consider mitigating factors for their sentencing.
yes.
If at any point you need some water, or you just need a minute, let me know. Okay. Now, you testified at trial, right?
Yes.
So the judge will take into consideration everything that you've already testified to. So we're gonna, focus on some things that you didn't testify about in the trial, okay?
Okay.
The first thing that I want to talk to you about is your family, okay? Can you please let the judge know who all is here for you today?
My son, DeAndre Davis. My sister cousin, Andrika Brock. My husband, Lonnie Nelson. My baby sister, Ebony Coben. My brother-in-law. Oh, sorry. My brother-in-law, Alpha Coben. My middle sister, Nicole Curley. My mother, Annie Marbray. My inner circle and dear friend, Karma Gardner. My lovely auntie, Barbara Ganaway. The matriarch of our family, Nettie Curley. My cousin, Frederick Daniels. Miss Tammy. My prayer warrior. My everything, Aunt Gladys Curley, and Mr. Henry. And I also have LaShawn Hill and Janet Hill.
And Kendall Simmons as well.
Oh, yes.
As part of preparation for this hearing, did your friends and family prepare character letters?
Yes.
I'm going to pass you forward a pack of character letters and ask you if you recognize who these are from, okay?
Read them or just, like their name, just look to see.
If you want to just list off who they're from, you can, if the court would like that for the record.
Alpha Coben. Ebony Coben. Gladys Curley. LaShawn Dunn. Ingrid Green. Dr. LaShawn Hill. Miss Yvonne Williams. Janet Hill. I'm just gonna say CJ.
That's her son.
Dr. LaToshia Johnson. Annie Marbray. Amy R. Miller. Devin Smith. Marilyn Stewart. Kendall Summons. Jocelyn Thompson. Brenda Ellis Williams. Jaleesa Williams. Pastor Ronald Bailey. Karma Gardner. Dr. Hill and Amy Miller loved me. They said too. Oh, God. April Taylor.
Your Honor, I would ask that it hasn't been an A sticker on it from the sentencing memorandum. And Your Honor, that does include the ones filed with the sentencing memorandum as well as the additional ones received after that filing.
We shall be carried to the list of included fees.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Daniels, is there one very important person in your life who is not here today because they're no longer with us?
Yes,
Who is that?
my oldest son, Deontay Davis.
And when did he pass?
November 8th, 2019, 4 months after I was incarcerated.
Did that pass suicide?
He died by suicide.
And were you able to go to his funeral?
No,
Did you endure that loss while you were incarcerated?
yes,
Now, I want to kind of shift gears, okay? I want to talk to you about your employment, okay? I'm going to pass you forward the document. And I'll make you write on it.
this is my resume.
Tell me kind of a general breakdown of your employment history.
Before incarceration, I was a clinical mental and behavioral health therapist where I was in private practice for many years. I also founded a nonprofit organization called Links of Love.
What does Links of Love do?
We help, well, after incarceration, we started doing business as Love 365. And at that time, we began to help young adults navigate through life to be spiritually, mentally, and emotionally healthy while navigating through life, so that they may build resilience and thrive through life.
And that was, you expanded on that after you were released on bond.
Yes.
What else did you do employment-wise while you were on bond?
I worked at Whataburger, where I started off at the bottom and within 6 months became the restaurant trainer. I left that position and went and began to become a barista at a local coffee cafe.
Does that resume accurately reflect your employment history and your educational history?
Yes, I also started a business where I became a life coach.
Your Honor, I'd ask that that be the next exhibit.
An objection.
No objection.
So, within this resume is exhibit C to this here.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels, I'm handing you another pack of photographs. Do you recognize those photographs?
I do.
What are those from?
These are from two various community service projects where the young adults, although we work through spiritual, mental, and emotional resilience, we also give back to the community. So these are two projects. So one, we did a project where we painted the church parking lot so they could have lines so they can park. And then the second one was a back to school giveaway where we gave back school supplies to the local community.
Are those the only two community service projects you've ever done?
No.
Your Honor, I'd ask that be made the next lettered exhibit. A cumulative exhibit, please.
We show the service, which is community. Exhibit C.
What other types of service-related acts have you done?
Before incarceration, I was involved in numerous community organizations where I did community service all the time through my sorority, Sigma Gamma Rho, being a member of Eastern Star, Prince Hall affiliated, the National Social Workers Association, Black Social Workers Association. I was always involved in community service, even through my church.
Did you continue community service after being released out on bond?
I did that through my nonprofit as I work with the young adults.
Did you have more than just those two activities, or were those just the two that we have pictures of?
Those are just the two that we have pictures of.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels, I'm handing you a stack of books. If you would please look through those and tell me if you recognize them.
I do.
Please tell me what those are.
These are journals and books that I have written once I got out on bond, and that they are now available on Amazon and other local.
Your Honor, I'd ask that be made a cumulative exhibit.
Any objection?
No, ma'am.
All right, we'll show the books brought by the defendants, exhibit D. You said, I'm sorry. D. Is it E? Yes, E, I'm sorry. Yes, E.
Can you please look at each of those, indicate the title and kind of a brief description of what they are?
This first one, Authentic, is just a writing journal. A Prayer for Mom, a journal for teens with incarcerated mothers, is a guided journal for teens who have incarcerated mothers. A Mother's Prayer is a journal for incarcerated mothers. It's also a guided journal.
Were those two specifically kind of inspired by your personal experience in custody?
Yes. Know Thyself is just a journal, and it has encouraging words for women as they write through each day. Kingdom Man is a writing journal for men. Kingdom Teen, 1 Peter 2:9, True Royalty, is a writing journal for teens. Level Up, Gaining Power During the Fight, is the beginning of memoir of sharing my story and my journey as I went through incarceration and learning to gain power during that time. Feel, Deal, Heal, Acquiring Love, Liberty Over Vulnerable Emotions, is again part of my journey and story as I begin my healing journey through this process.
Now, I noticed several of those are writing journals. Why did you focus on creating writing journals for people?
Journaling is a coping skill that I use throughout all my life, but found it to be very necessary and needed during this particular season of my life.
And did you want to share that with others so
Yeah.
that they could help find that comfort?
Yes.
I want to talk to you next about your mental health, okay?
Yes.
Now, you have a master's degree in social work, right?
Yes.
Well,
I have.
and let me do this while we're talking about it. May I approach?
Yes.
We'll back up just a minute. Do you recognize those documents?
I do.
What are those?
These are photographs of my degrees.
Okay, and what schools are they from and what are they degrees for?
The University of Arkansas at Little Rock, a Bachelor's of Arts in Criminal Justice. University of Arkansas at Little Rock, a Master's of Social Work. Walden University, Doctor of Social Work.
I misspoke, you have a doctorate.
Yes.
Your Honor, if we could make those the next letter exhibit, I believe that would be F.
Any objection? No. All right. Of the defendant's degrees marked as exhibit. Yep.
And Ms. Daniels, you've dedicated your life to studying and learning about mental health, right?
Yes.
But you yourself have struggled with mental health difficulties.
Yes.
As part of that struggle, since being incarcerated and even before, had you sought mental health professional care?
I have.
Okay. What were you doing prior to incarceration?
Prior to incarceration, I had begun to do individual therapy.
Okay. Now, what about when you went into custody?
When I went into custody, there's not a lot there, but I did have the ability to talk to one of the clinicians that come in that's on contract.
And you took advantage of that. You did see the psychologists available within the facility.
Yes,
And when you got out, did you resume mental health treatment?
I did.
Who did you see?
I saw Amy Miller.
Okay. And that was an individual that provided a letter to the court.
Yes.
How long did you see Amy Miller?
I saw her the entire time that I was out on bond.
Okay.
So for 2.5 years.
Did she ever give you any clinical diagnoses?
She did.
What did she diagnose you with?
She did major depression and PTSD.
And then as part of our preparations for trial, did you go through a psychological evaluation with Dr. Bidding?
I did.
Do you recall Dr. Bidding's diagnosis?
Major depression, avoidant personality, and borderline personality.
Do you recognize while you're in custody this time, do you intend to continue to pursue mental health treatment?
I have pursued it.
Tell me about that.
I have met with Dr. Mason, who is in the facility.
Why does that matter?
Being mentally healthy is part of my overall well-being. And so I am dedicated to living and I want to be healthy.
And are we sitting here today because of a mental health crisis?
Yes.
I want to talk to you about while you were in custody, okay? You've been in custody since the verdict came back, right?
Yes.
Have you availed yourself of any other opportunities within the facility?
Yes, the facility has where you can go onto a tablet and complete various courses. And so I took advantage of doing those courses while I've been incarcerated.
Your Honor, may I pass forward a group of documents?
Yes.
Do you recognize what those are?
Yes, these are the certificates I've gotten from completing various courses.
Would you please, for the record, read what course they are and their date of completion?
Entrepreneurship, November 2025. Origin Wellbeing Academy, December 2025. Enduring skills, December 2025. The only person you cheat is you, December 2025. Explore a career in electrical, January 2026. Digital marketing certification preparation, January 2026. Wellness recovery action plan reentry, January 2026. The master plan, January 2026.
Your Honor, I'd ask that that be the next lettered exhibit.
Any objection?
No, ma'am.
Show certificate. Gang certificate, this is exhibit G. That's it, G.
And I understand the limitations of a class on a tablet, but did you find any of those helpful or insightful?
Yes, most of those that I took intentionally because they all, for the most part, assisted me with continuing with enhancing my mental and emotional well-being.
With those sorts of courses, is it kind of one of those things you get out of it what you put into it?
Yes.
And are you just going through the motions to get certificates, or are you still pursuing betterment?
No, I'm pursuing betterment.
Now we're moving into the closing end of things, okay? I know that there are some apologies that you wanted to make and some words that you wanted to say to the court. So now is your time and your opportunity to do that, okay?
Your Honor, to this court, if I may start with the Perry family. To the Perry family, no words can express the pain that I feel, nor will it ever take away the pain that you feel. But I want to say to you that I'm godly sorrowful. And I know it doesn't take back what has happened, nor does it negate what has happened. But I want you to know that I am so sorry for the pain that I've caused you. To Tabitha, I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. And I pray that all of you guys will forgive me. But please know, I never meant for any of this to happen. To my family, I'm so sorry that I've taken you guys through this. Never meant to hurt or harm anyone. And I'm so godly sorrowful. Judge, I know what I did. I wasn't in the best health. And I know it doesn't take away what happened. But please, know that I'm godly sorrowful. And I ask that you extend grace and mercy.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
No question.
All right, you may step down now. State, I think you said you had a letter that you got.
I do, as part of my argument, is what I was
Okay.
gonna do.
Okay, all right, final argument. Start with the state.
So, I filed some enhancement factors, and I want to talk about those briefly, and then I also want to talk about one that wasn't in my filing. So the first is there's more than one victim, and had the jury, and this applies also to 3 that I'm talking about now, but it also applies to 12 as far as this argument goes. Had the jury come back and convicted of criminal intent murder or and included that wasn't misdemeanor reckless endangerment,
You
I
said
think
3 and what was the other?
12.
3 and 12. Okay.
And 12 is the action resulted in serious bodily injury to the victim not intended. So the argument against those would be that because Miss Archie was a victim in another county indictment, that you couldn't use that to enhance count 1 of the indictment or the murder 2. But because the jury didn't find, particularly as to 12, with reckless endangerment doesn't require injury. It just requires, and if you from the statute, a person commits an offense who recklessly engages in conduct that places or may place another person in imminent danger of death or serious bodily injury. So our argument is that those 2 factors can apply because of the jury's verdict. They didn't find Ms. Daniels guilty of particularly injuring Ms. Perry, but even that Ms. Perry was necessarily a victim. That she committed an act that may have placed another person in serious bodily injury. So as for enhancement factor 9 that employed a firearm, I think it's conceded that applies to count 1. I submit it also applies to count 2 because misdemeanor reckless endangerment, an element of that is not a firearm. So that enhancement factor should apply to both counts. And then I would argue enhancement in factor 10. This occurred in public, in an apartment complex. Some of it outside on the balcony of an apartment complex in the middle of Carterville. So enhancement factor 10 should apply. After the enhancement factors in the sentencing memorandum, the defendant is asking to be sentenced as an especially mitigated offender. Just to take, in my mind, the concession that enhancement factor 9 applies takes that off the table when the court can't consider it, because under the statute 4035-109, the court would have to find mitigation but no enhancement factors. So if the court finds any enhancement factors, not that the mitigation outweighs the enhancement, 13.5 is off the table and we start at 15. And then finally, I just want to talk a little bit about the facts, and I'll kind of tell the court why maybe at the end of mentioning these. The proof was that she drove 3 hours. That during that 3-hour drive, she stopped and she bought a gun. The proof was that she went to his house, that she waited for him to get home. That she sat in the living room, spoke to Rose Perry and Miss Archie for a substantial period of time. Got up, was being walked out, grabbed the gun that she had purchased that same day, turned around and shot until she ran out of ammunition, hitting him 5 times and killed him, and also hitting Miss Archie, causing serious bodily injury. This was done in front of the murder. Was done in front of Miss Archie, who was his wife at the time. So the 38-year-old, educated, mature lady, she had been married twice. She had been divorced twice. She was voluntarily having what was a secret affair. And that very day, just before buying the gun, she had received a text message from him saying that he wanted to end this affair. I tell the court all this because, and the court heard that, because even though the jury came back with second-degree murder, according to State v. Winfield, 23 Southwest 3rd, 279.
Can you repeat that site?
23 Southwest 3rd, 279. The court can base the sentence on the underlying facts of the offense for which she was acquitted, which is first-degree murder. And the reasoning goes that the jury's verdict simply says that the state didn't prove premeditation beyond a reasonable doubt. The standard of proof in this sentencing hearing is preponderance of the evidence. And so the court can consider all of those facts that I just laid out in front of you showing premeditation under the preponderance of the evidence standard and use those facts, and you can't go outside of the convicted offense's range. But certainly you can use that when considering what's the appropriate sentence for second-degree murder. And finally, before I get to the victim impact letter, Miss Daniels has done a lot of things throughout the trial, throughout the sentencing hearing, wanting the court to consider her the victim, wanting the jury to consider her the victim. One of those things in particular that I found telling and that looks at her mindset is she's mentioned in the trial and today, and it's tragic and it's devastating that her son committed suicide after she was charged with this crime and while she was incarcerated. But what she has never mentioned to the jury or to this court, and it's on page 8 of the sentencing hearing, is that her son killed his girlfriend before he committed suicide. And so there's another victim that's involved in that Miss Daniels does not mention ever. There are also other victims in this case. And while Miss Daniels may have been depressed and may have not liked that her secret affair was ending, certainly Rhoda Perry is the victim and not LaToshia Daniels. And certainly Tabitha Archie is the victim and not LaToshia Daniels. Ms. Calvetta Perry, who is the mother of Rose Perry, has asked the court to consider the following. And she says, "Good morning, everyone. These past several years have been so hard on my family. There is not a day that goes by without thinking of my son, who was the baby of the bunch. I miss his calls, checking in just to say, 'Hey, Mom, how are you doing?' I miss him every day. I do have his friends here in Jacksonville who check on me. I consider them all my sons. I pray whatever the outcome, it's in our Heavenly Father's hands. I pray for the strength every day to get me through. Grief is hard, and I grieve for the loss of Rose every day. I will continue to rely on our God daily. Continue to rest, my son. Our God is keeping me. I pray that Miss Daniels has asked for forgiveness. As the word states, 'Thou shalt not kill.' Thank you." And I have a copy of that I would like to make the next exhibit to this.
In this section.
No, Your Honor.
And I would ask the
I would
court,
ask for a copy then.
Thanks for requesting copy. All right, we'll show, the victim's mother's statement is Exhibit H. Okay. Does they have a copy? You have a copy of it for Miss Fuchs?
we will get this music.
Okay,
I will have to print one.
okay, all right. Yes,
And I'm not gonna throw a number out there. I think legally 13.5 is not on the table, based even just on the concession and the sentencing memorandum. One person was killed, another person seriously injured. I submit a lot of proof of premeditation. The sentence should be closer to the top of the range than the bottom of the range. And we've asked the court to sentence her as such.
The defense found a bunch of mitigating factors. Do you have a position on those? All right.
Your Honor, first to address Mr. McAlpin's statements, the situation regarding her son, that would not have been appropriately before the jury. That would not have been relevant to the proceedings before the jury. That happened after this offense. So that is why that did not come up to the jury. And Ms. Daniels is the one who provided that information to probation for it to have been included in the report. So I would disagree with the fact that she has never mentioned that before. The state did not file intent to seek consecutive sentencing in this matter. And the state argued more enhancement factors than it actually filed on. But I believe I have addressed all of the enhancement factors in my sentencing memorandum. To go through briefly on the enhancement factors to respond to Mr. McAlpin prior to arguing the mitigating factors. As to factor number 1, she does not have any criminal history. She does not have any criminal convictions or criminal behavior in addition to those necessary to establish the appropriate range. So that would be any situations outside of these events that are before the court for sentencing. There has been no proof of any criminal convictions or criminal behavior by Ms. Daniels. So I would submit that factor is not applicable. As to factor 3, that the offense involved more than one victim. Your Honor, the case law on this is clear. It is not applicable to the facts of this case under State v. Enfield, and that is 70 Southwest 3rd, 698 at page 706, decided by the Tennessee Supreme Court in 2002, when the Tennessee Supreme Court found that there cannot be multiple victims for any one charge when there are named victims in the indictment. There must be additional proof of other people in order to establish more than one victim. Here, what we have proof for is Mr. Perry and Mrs. Perry at the time the shots were fired. Both are named victims. There was not any testimony about anyone else out in the area that would have qualified as a victim during the shooting. And I believe the shooting actually took place within the confines of the apartment, and there was no one else in the apartment, and that was testified to. There was no proof here or at trial of anyone else that was placed in danger. So I would submit enhancement factor 3 cannot apply in compliance with the law. Mr. McAlpin argued factor 10 for the same reasons that the more than one victim cannot apply. That cannot apply either under State v. Kelly, which is 34 Southwest 3rd, 471, because there was not any testimony about someone else whose life was placed in danger by the actions of Ms. Daniels. Therefore, this cannot apply to these facts. There is a burden of proof on that, and the state has not provided proof regarding those factors. As to 12, the intentional infliction of particularly great injury. Your Honor, State v. Huey, which is a Tennessee criminal.
12.
I'm sorry?
You said 12, okay.
Yes. State v. Huey, which is an unpublished opinion that can be found at M 2000-02793-CCA-R3-CD and at 2002 Westlaw 51713. I have that cited in my brief at page 20. The court in that matter looked at this factor particularly and said, we see no reason why the rationale would not preclude the enhancement of a defendant's sentence under enhancement factor 12 when a conviction has been obtained against a defendant for the serious bodily injury or death suffered by the person other than the intended victim. And in this case, Ms. Daniels was indicted for first-degree murder of Mr. Perry, criminal attempt first-degree murder of Tabitha Perry, and the employing a firearm. The jury came back not finding premeditation at second degree. And as to Ms. Perry, they came back with the reckless endangerment. And Your Honor, the reckless endangerment requires that danger of bodily injury. So I think under State v. Huey, that would be a kind of a double dipping to apply that enhancement based on that language. I don't think it can be. I think clearly it cannot be applied to count one. But even as to count two, the reckless act of shooting is what placed Ms. Perry in danger. So I think that is consumed by the elements of the offense. I believe that was all of the factors argued by the state. But they did file also on the use of a gun. And that would be enhancement factor 9, I believe. The courts have repeatedly said, yes, the defendant possessed or employed a firearm. The courts have repeatedly said that they found error with courts for not applying this in murder cases. Because there's kind of a nonsensical nature to enhancing for the use of a firearm when the firearm is what was used to achieve the murder. It almost, it equates to an incentivizing to use another deadly weapon, which doesn't make any sense. So the courts have said that this can apply to second degree murder. I will concede that. I will also note that the court has discretion in whether to apply enhancement factors and what weight to give them. So if Your Honor does apply this factor, I would ask that you give it very little weight, as it is such an inherent part of the offense itself. In my memorandum, I did argue regarding the reckless endangerment with a deadly weapon. So I would just note that the deadly weapon, again, was what was used to accomplish the reckless placement in imminent danger. Moving now, Your Honor, to mitigating factors. Your Honor, we filed several mitigating factors. We are asking the court to consider factor number 2, which is that the defendant acted under strong provocation. A lot of these factors that we have filed on rely heavily on the testimony that came forward in trial, not just from Ms. Daniels, but from the officers on the scene, from Tabitha Archie, from Dr. Bidding. All of this testimony combined is what provides our basis for these mitigating factors. And particularly as to Ms. Daniels' testimony, she described the relationship that she and Mr. Perry had, and how it, especially at the end, was somewhat emotionally tumultuous, and that she was being pulled through this emotional whiplash, especially that day. And that the moment that she pulled out that gun, she was screaming, "You broke my heart." that she was so completely overcome by her emotions, coupled with her own mental health crisis, that qualifies as an adequate provocation here. And Your Honor, I think that this also, it should be noted that the objections that we made regarding the jury instructions, because the jury was not able, if they follow the law, to move down to voluntary manslaughter to consider whether there was that adequate provocation, because of the way the jury instructions are formatted. And I know Your Honor is very familiar with that argument, but I'd ask you to take that into consideration, and not dismiss it because the jury came back in second degree rather than voluntary manslaughter. Mitigating factor number 3, substantial grounds exist tending to excuse or justify the defendant's criminal conduct, though failing to establish a defense. Your Honor, again, this so many times throughout the sentencing memorandum, we do reference back to the emotional and mental health crisis that Ms. Daniels was suffering from at the time of this incident. And that was apparent, again, across the testimony. What happened on April the 4th is not a true depiction of who Ms. Daniels is as a person. All of these people are here to tell you that. Number 8, Your Honor, that the defendant was suffering from a mental or physical condition that significantly reduced the defendant's culpability for the defense. He did provide proof during the trial of her mental health situation. I'd ask the court to take that into consider, Dr. Bidding's testimony, that this was the result of an emotional and mental health crisis. So relying heavily on Dr. Bidding's testimony for that particular mitigating factor. And Your Honor, I think that that factor should be given significant weight. Again, the actions of April the 4th were not typical of the LaToshia Daniels that everyone who knows her knows. And it was the result of this devastating situation. And it had devastating results. There is nothing to try to unvictimize Mr. Perry or Tabitha Perry. That no part of that. Ms. Daniels hurts for what she did to them. And not just because she's sitting here. But she was also suffering that day too. I don't think that those two things are mutually exclusive. She's not asking the court to consider her a victim. She's asking the court to consider her and to take her and her mental health into consideration when sentencing. And that's appropriately before the court. Factor number 11, the defendant, although guilty of a crime, committed the offense under such unusual circumstances that it is unlikely that a sustained intent to violate the law motivated the criminal conduct. Again, Your Honor, we would rely heavily on the testimony from trial. Immediately after this happened, Ms. Daniels was pointing the gun to herself. She attempted to commit suicide in the hospital. This was not the result of a desire to go out and hurt people. This was the result of an emotional and mental health crisis that started at a suicide attempt and ended in a suicide attempt prior to her being taken into custody. And Your Honor, again, the evidence at trial supports the application of mitigating factor number 11. The catch-all mitigating factor number 13, any factor consistent with the purposes of this chapter. Your Honor, the primary purpose of Ms. Daniels' testimony was laying out the exhibits and the proof necessary for the application of various factors under the catch-all factor. First of all, remorse. And remorse is a qualifying consideration for mitigation under State v. McKnight. which is 900 Southwest 2nd 36. Relying on both her testimony today and her testimony at trial, Ms. Daniels has repeatedly emphasized how remorseful she is for her conduct. This is something that she grapples with every single day, and knowing the pain that she caused to Mr. Perry's family, taking his life, to Tabitha Perry, Archie, to her family, to Ms. Daniels' loved ones and her family. She is extremely remorseful, and I would ask the court to give a lot of weight to that factor. Second, she has no criminal history at all. And it is, again, an appropriate mitigator under State v. Kelly, which is 34 Southwest 3rd 471. She has a very strong family and support system, as is apparent in the courtroom today by these numerous people who are here to support her. And that is something that the court can take into consideration as a mitigating factor. She has a positive work history. The court has a copy of her degrees, a copy of her resume, information about her community service through her nonprofit. And that is also appropriately before the court as a mitigating factor under State v. McKnight. I also think that it should be considered that she got her education and pursued a impressive career after becoming pregnant at 17. And I mean, just to overcome the hurdles that she overcame, to do all of those things while dealing with her own mental health issues and parenting. She is an extremely motivated person that has always tried to seek better for herself and her family. And Your Honor, I did provide citations that the work history is an appropriate mitigating factor. She has a strong history of community mindedness before incarceration and after being released on bond. She continued her community service activities. She established a nonprofit. She has written books to help others navigate their way through the mental health crisis that she herself has had to navigate through, and try to give people tools. This is very real for her in the books, the journals for the incarcerated mothers and the children of incarcerated mothers, especially after having lost her child while she was in custody. She has a positive educational background. She has an incredibly impressive educational background, all the way up to a doctorate degree. She has dedicated her life to helping others, as is evidenced by her profession choice and the books that she has provided. The court is to take into consideration the strong R testing, and she came back with a low risk of recidivism. And the only risks that they noted were mental health related. So, Your Honor, I would ask that the court give strong deference to the fact that she is not a risk of recidivism according to the strong R. The state did not request consecutive sentencing. I would ask that Your Honor not find for consecutive sentencing. I don't think that any of the Wilkerson factors apply here. In order to find a dangerous offender enhancement, which is the most, thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, I agree with Mr. McAlpin. The concession as to the count regarding the gun, if Your Honor applies that enhancement factor, then she cannot be found an especially mitigated offender. I think that's State v. Harris, if I'm not mistaken, or Hicks, I'm sorry. It can only be mitigators found and no enhancements. The court has absolute discretion in what mitigators and what enhancements this court chooses to utilize. I would ask the court to find the mitigators and not find the enhancers and simply serve 13.5 years as an especially mitigated offense. If Your Honor does find that the firearm offense applies as an enhancement factor, I would ask the court to still find the mitigators that we have provided proof for in the record. And with that enhancement factor, which I would submit is the only enhancement factor that may be able to apply, that the court grant Ms. Daniels a 15-year sentence with the misdemeanor reckless endangerment run concurrent. Thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Mika? No. I need to take a brief recess. Take a recess.
Court stands in a brief recess.